disease, it actually wreaks havoc with many parts of their body, including the thought process. And so we began several years ago to look at arsenic in some of the most common things we were giving our children. And again, Health Corps, the Children's Foundation that USANA funds, has done a lot of work looking at these different kinds of toxins and the role they can play in our lives. So we've noticed that apple juice, which kids drink a lot of because moms who love their kids give it to them thinking it's healthy. And at its very core, it is healthy. But it had, in some instances, more arsenic than we thought was appropriate. So we had a big conversation about this on the show. There was a lot of controversy. Some people accused us of fear-mongering. Some said we hadn't done the science right. But we actually pulled all the information together, and the FDA, although they were resistant to this initially, I really have to applaud them. We live in a country where you can criticize the government, and if you have some merit, they will listen. So, and I'm proud of our country for that. So, the FDA did their own studies, also found there were elevated levels of arsenic in some samples of apple soft juice. This is partly because in this country, we prohibited uses of arsenic-based pesticides about 25 years ago. But that's not true in other parts of the world, and most of the apple juice in this country comes from other countries. And so, by identifying where those problems were, we now have new legislation, new rules by the FDA that will limit the amount of arsenic in apple juice, which makes it, I think, safer for all mothers to now feel comfortable that this beverage, which we grew up on, is equally safe today as it was a generation ago. So I think it was a long path. We took a lot of heat. But I'll never forget a moment before the show aired that we first broke this news. And we had everybody on the phone together, including Oprah, her team, all the people that have been partners to us in the show. And they all said the same thing. If you're not going to take on important issues like this, there's no point doing your show. You need to do it because it's the right thing to do.
We definitely thank you for bringing toxins and dangers, the awareness about so that we can get change and protect our families. It's so critical, especially protect our young ones as developing. We want to keep things as pure as possible. Recently, I had the honor of being on your show to talk about another controversial topic, silver fillings.
You did a great job.
So now, at what point should I be concerned? At what level is it, more than we're supposed to have?
Anything over 0 is toxic. So we're at 61.
Oh my goodness, 61?
61 micrograms.
He did a great job on the show. When he gets bored, he didn't host his own talk show. But I first saw this demonstration, and it did blow my mind, at the Radio City Music Hall event. And David Dr. Wentz did this wonderful, very comedic routine. It was fabulous. But in the middle of all this humor, they were able to tell something very important to me about how we get mercury into our body just by brushing mercury fillings. How many of you have silver fillings? These mercury amalgam fillings? Most of the audience. I do. It's very common. And so we started doing our homework on this. When I was out visiting, I had this conversation with Dave. I asked Dave, would you be brave enough, willing to come on the show and just do this demonstration live? Let's just see what happens. And he did it, and you revealed that there's a lot of gassing, off-gassing. When you brush your teeth, these gases go into your mouth. So we've had a long-standing debate with several organizations about whether these silver fillings, these mercury amalgam fillings are safe. Half the dentists that I've spoken to don't use them anymore. They argue there's no reason to use them. I look forward to a day when all the dentists will come together and say, if we're not 100% sure something's safe, why take a chance? And the major societies will get that behind them at that point as well. But in the meantime, if you're going to have a filling in your mouth, we vote with our pocketbooks every time we do things. I think you should push your dentist to say, do I have to get a mercury amalgam? Why can't I just get a different filling? Because you should know that, as I mentioned, half the dentists don't ever use the other kinds of fillings. So you should always be able to be managed in a different way if you care about it.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on the show. I was so happy that glove box was there, so that my knees, you couldn't see them shaking. That was terrifying, but it makes you at ease, and it does a fantastic job. We've attended his show a number of times, a lot of fun. I highly recommend it if you're in New York, get in to see his show. It is amazing to be there. All right, let's take a few more questions.
who are, I guess, very concerned about skin. That's our recurring theme here. So let's talk about skin for a second. One of the mistakes we make with our skin is we destroy the natural ability of skin to protect itself. When you use a harsh cleanser, you strip away a very thin, cellophane-like covering over your skin. This acid mantle that's supposed to naturally be there to protect the skin. So using harsh cleansers, frankly, just using regular soap usually is too much. It takes away that natural protection. So the question is, what's the normal skin routine and how can you augment it? Remember, the reason we value beauty so much is it's a barometer of inner health. Otherwise, we wouldn't care about it that much. And the most important gauge of beauty, if I were to go through this entire audience and ask you, is this person beautiful or not? We have subtle differences in what eye color we like and how wide our nose should be and what our lips look like. But the number one way we evaluate beauty is the quality of the skin. So if our skin quality is high, we interpret the person as being beautiful. So inner health allows that to exude forward. The most common deficits we see with skin that's not what it should be is biotin deficiency, which is why I love eggs. And don't ever have egg whites again. They're a waste of time. Eat the egg with the yolk. Misplaced belief that cholesterol in your diet matters to the cholesterol in your body. It's probably important for maybe 5% of people who have genetic issues. The vast majority of us don't have a problem with that. Our elevated cholesterol comes because we've got too much fat. That's what causes high cholesterol. But if you have an egg and you eat the yellow, you get the biotin that's naturally present in that. In addition to simple dietary supports like that, and in the summertime, by the way, watermelon and tomatoes are fantastic. Tomatoes have lycopene, which protects your skin against sun damage. They did a very sexy study in the UK, Great Britain. They took a bunch of women, they fed half of them a lot of tomato paste and tomatoes, the other half didn't get it. Then they stripped them naked and they exposed their rumps, their bottoms to the sun. And the women who didn't get tomatoes had sunburned bottoms the next day, which is actually how the study was done. I did it with the BBC a couple years ago for a show. So we know that food plays an important role. In addition to the cleansing process you use, I don't think you should ever really use soap unless you're taking something off. If you're working under a car, yes, you gotta wash it off, but most of us don't need that. So if anything, a very gentle cleanser, nothing, always you have to moisturize. Sunblock you know about, but the antioxidant creams many people use in the morning, well the sun hits those creams and destroys the antioxidants. So make sure the antioxidant creams you use are used in the evening, not the morning, that way they can bathe your face overnight. And finally for children, which is part of the second question, I've had huge success with omega-3 fatty acids. We give them to our pets to help the fur. It also helps the skin. It provides them more of those flexible lipids that allows the skin to become resilient and deal with some of the crises that sometimes happens in the face of children. And I don't know, no one does, specifically the role of nutrition and acne, but we know that in Papua New Guinea, a place where they eat what only humans could eat 1,000, 10,000 years ago, they don't have any acne. I'm told anyway. So I think food does make a difference.
Thank you very much. Get those kids on high omega-3 early. Keep those omega-3s. You have one more question?
Let's take one more.
Hey, Dr. Oz, it's Isabel. I'm from Toronto, Canada. And my question is, there's so many people in my life that don't have the best health. And I'm wondering, what do you think I can do to help them realize that it doesn't have to be that way, that they can actually be super healthy?
Now, Dr. Oz, this is an important question for us. These people care. How? These people care. They are that stage out there. They want to learn more. How do they get other people to care? Much like you do on your show. Would you please take some time to teach them how to help change the world?
This is a topic that I'm passionate about. Dave, thank you for having me on the set. I'm going to spend a little time talking about this issue with you. I'm going to break it down into several topics. And I do think, if you're going to get a piece of paper and a pen out, it's not a bad time to do it. Because I'm going to go through a couple of slides that I prepared. At its very core, what we face in the world is a lot of people who are in the pre-contemplative phase. Let me explain what that means. Historically, we thought about psychology. We thought about Sigmund Freud, right? We thought about hating our mothers, or being told we should hate our mothers, right? All these psychological dogma came down to us, but it didn't really address what we had to have as healers. And everyone in this room, because you're in this room, you're a healer. You have the power to make change. but how do you convey that visceral need to make a change to people that you care for? So the psychology of change is not what Freud taught more than 100 years ago. It's based on a much newer science, but it has been looked at. And I'm working meticulously with a bunch of folks on this very issue. We have a website, at droz.com, that has a lot of traffic. We get about 100 million page views a month from different people on different family of websites we have, and we always focus on this issue. So what does the psychology of change say? It says most of us focus our attention on people who are in the phase of change. They already know to make a difference. Because you're here, all of you are in that group. However, only about 10 to 15% of people are actually changing meaningfully in their life. Most people are in the pre-contemplative spot. What that means is they're not even thinking about changing. Then you have some people who are thinking about changing, but they're not ready to do it yet. So how do you move people who are not yet thinking about change into the place where they're going to actually begin to think of changing and transforming their lives for the better? And let me speak, if I can, to that reality, because that's what I face every day on the show. Because when a couple million people turn the television channel, I've got to get more than new normal to think, you know what, today I'm going to change. Today it's going to happen. So how do I tell that story? Well, you tell a story by creating emotions. So let me put up some images. It all starts when you're a child, right? Children have passion, they have love, they have things they want to do. They experience things for the first time. And because they're ready and open to have experiences, they're much more willing to change. Part of the reason advertisers go after children is because they know children take information and translate it to action much more aggressively, much more rapidly. So what are the characteristics of a child? Well, they're passionate. I'll never forget the last day that I was on the Oprah show, and I did over 80 shows with her. The last day, I got some very important advice from a member of her team. She said, listen, describe how people who love you think about you. However you describe that, that's who you need to be, because that's how people truly see you. I ask each of you to do that. Think about what people in your life would use to describe you. What word would come to their mind, to your mother's mind, to your sibling's mind, a child, a friend? What word would they use to describe you? The word that all my friends use for me is passion. That's the word that I always felt was most important to me. So when I try to tell the story of change, I use passion. It's a little bit of a child image in my mind, but you want to have a little bit of that youthful enthusiasm and a little naivete, because people, I think, crave that for the people in their lives. You also want a little innocence. And innocence is not about being foolish, it's about being respectful to the reality that people have had different life experiences from us. And they haven't always had easy ones. And the barriers that they build for themselves are ones that you have to help them get through, even if they can't see what they are. And remember, the cobwebs, the very thin cobwebs that sometimes catch us, well, they become cables over time if we don't work hard to free ourselves from them. So innocence becomes a very valuable attribute as you tell the story. Here's some simple stuff. It worked for me, it worked for them, it could work for you. I care about you. And that's one of the reasons that when I talk to cigarette smokers, I never chastise them, never get mad at them for smoking, because they know it's not good for them. What I tell them, very innocently, is I care for you. It matters to me how you do. All I want you to do is care for yourself as much as I do. And once you realize that people around you care about you, if you're a smoker, you stop beating yourself up for smoking, because nobody who smokes wants to smoke. People are overweight, they don't want to be overweight. People don't feel good in life, they don't want to feel that way. Most of the people in your life are not living life at 100th percentile of who they are. Most people are living life at 30th, 40th, 50th percentile of who they could be. And you want to get them to realize that and move up. You also need connection. It is the single most important emotion I think humans crave. Listen, our prefrontal cortex is a big part of our brain. We didn't need to develop that to catch animals. Reptiles catch prey, they have small little brains. Our brains grew the size they are because we had to connect with each other. We had to empathize, see others' emotions, respect and respond to them. We had to be able to look in each other's eyes and realize that we matter to them and they matter to us. That's what true connection really is. And when you begin to appreciate that in the person that you're talking to, they will as well. And then you take advantage of this gargantuan organ, the brain, that's really there for this very purpose. And yet we ignore it. If you ask yourself, what's the thing I want most in life? It's connection. We call it love. You know, we have other phrases for it, but hormonally we're driven to seek it, and when we don't find connection, we sense emptiness. That's actually one of the big reasons we have obesity around the world. People feel emptiness because they're not connecting. They try to fill that emptiness with the only thing they can fill it with, which is the spoon at the end of their hand. And then, they're looking for love in all the wrong places, and it just fill their bodies up with things besides what they're really seeking, which is this connection. And they're looking for beauty. Now, I mentioned earlier that beauty is something that although we may perceive it as skin deep, we actually sense it as important because it reveals much deeper realities, our inner health. That's why we look for symmetry. The golden ratio, which I hope you know. If you don't, please look up a little bit. The golden ratio defines all the numbers, the important numbers that reveal how biologic processes work. It's why petals have the right number on a flower that make it look attractive to us. The distance between your eyes, the width of your mouth compared to your nose, these are all determined by this golden ratio. We see it, but why is it important? It's not important because it's beautiful. It's important because it meant that your body was reproducing correctly when you were being made, which subconsciously sends a message that other parts of your body are working correctly as well. The reproductive system, your brain, your physical activity, all that stuff seems to fit as well. So we look for it. So these become important factors. And simple little changes, like the nutrients that go into your body, tip enzymes, tip genes in the right direction so that you actually begin to experience this outer beauty. But we're imperfect. These are both me. I bet you wouldn't be much different. Now look at it carefully. The left picture is two parts of my left face. Take my left face and we flipped it over. The right picture is my right head flipped over. So if I only had half of me doubled, that's what I would look like. It actually is a more attractive image, in theory, either one, than what I look like. And all of us are like that. We're all imperfect. So how do you marry desired perfection to the reality that we are imperfect? And this is where the rubber hits the road. So we have to figure out what tips, what tools will allow us to make that marriage between imperfections. You know what? We all want to be different, but we all want to be part of a community. Right? You all want to be special, but be part of the team. And these are not desires that marry well. Well, here are the excuses that I hear on the show. You probably hear them you're talking to different colleagues. They don't have enough time. I don't have the money it takes to do that. I don't know how to do that. And of course, most importantly, fear of change. And why do people fear change? Because they fear failure. When you try to change and you fail, then you think people won't love you anymore. And when you don't feel loved, that's spiritual death. So that's why this cascade goes on. And I challenge you, as straightforward as I'm saying this is what's going on emotionally, psychologically, in so many of the people that you're dealing with. So if I can, here's an example. I'm going to show you from a show clip. This is a person who actually made me feel like screaming for a while. But as I began to understand him better, I began to appreciate that he's a magical combination, truly magical combination of perfection, incredibly brilliant person, with an incredibly flawed ability to cope with the world around him. And just take a look.
I think it's good to all knowledge is good, right?
It's good, but you guys are being honest.
I would at least, in some part of my soul, if I were you, be thinking, these kids are going, they don't want anything. I know. They don't be like me. Yeah. You don't have that fear?
I do, of course, yeah. Yeah, and hiking, now you brought it up. Seriously.
No, there's a lot to think about after. This is not just entertainment right now. There's some cathartic things happening here. There's a, This is deep. I haven't done an interview like this, maybe ever.
So why would Charlie Sheen say he never had a conversation like this, maybe ever? Because when you care about people, you ask them the questions they need to hear, not the ones they want to hear. And you create an environment where they feel safe, but you can actually use leverage in order to change behaviors and perceptions. And when I began speaking to him about his kids, and the role model that he was forming for them, it became more than me just finger wagging and saying you shouldn't do drugs anymore, or smoke, or whatever the heck he was going to do. It was more about what was his legacy going to be for the people that I know he loves, his own kids. Look for those leverage points to try to get people to wake up to the reality of what life is offering them. Now, I've had many guides along this path. Oprah, obviously, my wife Lisa, who the main reason we've been doing entertainment because it was not part of my vision board. I am, and I was very happy doing heart surgery, which I still do once a week. The guests will come on my show and teach me a lot. The Charlie Sheens of the world. You know, I had the duck commander on this week with his whole family. Again, very insightful people. And I showed him a liver, and then I showed him a human liver, and he showed me a duck liver. And we began talking, and you know, he had an addiction problem when he was younger. And it's one of the reasons he's a spiritual person. And having him just tell the story of how he realized where he was going in life and how he awakened to where he should go in life was very revealing to me. Because I think it's a story many of us have as we go through transformations. And the audience, all of you. Because the audience has unique insights. That's why I care so much about social media and the power that it plays, because it can teach me a lot about what you actually hearing. And by the way, if you do use Facebook or Twitter, please join us. You know, Dr. Oz is on both those sites. We have over 6 million people who are part of the community. And I've learned a lot about how you talk to people in the audience, both on the show and in the other different formats, including social media. And you begin to realize how much wisdom is out there if you can harvest and bring it back. So these guys have helped in many ways. But this is what many of the people you're talking to look like. This is my audience. So, how do we deal with this? What do you offer to someone who's sitting back there? Remember I talked about the psychology of change? They're not thinking about changing. They got their beer and their remote, and they are happy. So how do you shake them a little bit? Because that's our challenge. Well, you can do it in a couple different ways. To transform, and these are the rules of engagement here, so remember these. Number one rule, to truly change somebody, do not bother changing their mind. Change how they feel. That's how they'll actually change what they're doing. Number two, make it easy to do the right thing. Have fun with it. Make it playful. They need to want to see you. So this event is a great example. You know, 78,000 people came here today because it's fun. This whole week has been fun. And you came to this morning's event to run because it was going to be fun. You knew that. It's why these events work so effectively. Think about this as you talk to folks in your own life. Ignore excuses. Not because they're not important, but they don't really matter. People have excuses. You know, I can't work out today because the gym is too far. I can't work out because I don't have money for the club. I can't work out because I look terrible in these workout clothes. You know, the sun's in my eyes. There are many excuses. Give people space, let them make the excuses, but they know it doesn't matter, and it shouldn't matter to you either. So here's a question on this regard.
Pamela from London, Ontario. I have a question for you. I have a lot of clients that tell me they can't lose weight because of their age, so my question is there a correlation between age and losing weight? I hope you can help me.
So Pamela's asking one of the most common questions. So let me use the example that I give you now about how you transform people to tell a story that might help Pamela and many others who are wondering the same question. So the clear answer is age absolutely affects your ability to lose weight. There's no question. But does it control it? No. Your physical activity, your ability to do any kind of endurance exercise at age 17 is the same as at age 65. I'll say it again. Age 17, age 65, the same level of endurance. Now, age 27 is when you're strongest, fastest. That's your peak activity. But 17 and 65 are the same. So if you can maintain a few basic insights about physical activity and nutrition, you should not gain weight, at least through that part of your life. So where do we fall? Where do we make mistakes? Let's walk through these. There are a couple examples. Here's a lady who's looking at the scale. She says, good heavens, this towel weighs 14 pounds. So this is one problem, is people actually don't face the reality of what's happening. So use the tools you have to make this clear. Then you want to say, okay, is this what you really look like when you look in the mirror? Take a selfie and look at the image. Is that what I really look like? And don't criticize yourself. Look at the prettiest part of yourself to figure out if it makes a difference. Then look at what might work. Now, it's easy for me to get up here and say, take some green coffee bean extract. And by the way, I never sell anything. All those ads around green coffee bean extract are fakes. If you see my picture next to a product that's being sold, they're lying to you. Because I don't endorse any products. But I think green coffee bean extract as a product does work. It's been used in 3 different studies. It seems to help people lose a little bit of weight. So it's okay. But there are other ways that I think can form the foundation of how you're going to lose weight sustainably. One of them, by the way, Ozwatch is the organization we have now to look for fake ads around me, because there's so many of them. But I just tell my friends like you, just watch out for them, because there's so darn many of them, it's almost impossible to police. All right, so spicy sauces. My friends from Mexico, this works. When you put spicy material, capsaicin, which is the raw material, in a meal, you actually will eat less at your next meal, and your metabolism will increase. That's when you begin to sweat. So this does work. And what about fiber? It works. You can get fiber in many different ways. For Pamela, who asked that question, one of the first places I would start. Now, take all the fiber at once. Remember, the average American eats about 12 grams roughly of fiber a day. If they go to 25 grams, which is what we desire, that's great. If they do it in one day, guess what's going to happen? They're going to blow up. That's right. They're all passing plates down here. They'll blow up like this. They'll start passing lots of gas, and they won't be fun to be around. So you want to slowly increase it over a week or two to get up to 25 grams. Go ahead and take a scoop of fiber and put it into the foods that you're eating to get you that number. Let's talk about other ways of doing fiber. This is my favorite, by the way. These are these things called Gigi crackers. I just find them at the local store. Yeah, I use them instead of toast. They're very high fiber, dense crackers. The taste is acceptable. It's not great, but it's good enough. And instead of having toast or bread in your life, find these kinds of alternatives and then automate it. Don't reinvent the wheel. Do the same thing every day. That should be part of your life. Nuts. Personally, what I rely on, there's always nuts in my pockets. All the men have nuts in their pockets. But women should also have nuts in their pockets. They're high in fiber, for the most part, high in nutrients that we need. But the other thing about nuts you may not know is you don't metabolize, you don't digest all the nut. You lose about 15%. It goes through your body because it's not chewed up enough. So you actually don't get all the calories, but you get the taste. It's a pretty good trade-off for a lot of folks. Colas, you know the story here. The 2 biggest problems we have are colas and French fries, because they're empty calories, and that's what so many of us rely on. These are simple things to give up. If you're not going to give up a cola, at least just cut the cola in half with seltzer water.